Hey everybody, this is a video discussing section 2.5 in the OpenStax Elementary Algebra textbook. This one is titled Solving Equations with Fractions or Decimals, but we'll actually only be focused on solving equations with fractions in this video and the examples in the book that go with that topic. Alright, so here's our first example. It says solve 1/6 y minus 1/3 equals 5/6. And typically, just to talk in general about this topic for a second, most people, when they see equations that contain fractions, they get a little bit apprehensive because we tend to have some issues with working with fractions. So a process has been developed to eliminate those fractions out of this equation using one, or some people consider it two, pretty simple steps. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to eliminate the fractions and then solve this equation with whole numbers, and it's going to be a much simpler process than what it may look like to begin with. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is the denominators here. We've got a denominator of 3, denominator of 6, and then of course there's another denominator of 6. So for our purposes, we're looking at two different denominators, 3 and 6. And the first step in this process is to find the least common multiple, the LCM, least common multiple of those two numbers. And in order to do that, we need to find a number that both of those numbers will go into evenly. So since 6 won't go into 3, and since no matter what we do, a larger number won't go into a smaller number evenly, we tend to want to start with the largest number in the list. In this case, it's 6. And see if the other number will go into that one. So you ask yourself, will 3 go into 6? Of course, the answer is yes. 3 goes into 6 2 times. And then 6 always goes into itself. Any number always goes into itself once. So the least common multiple of 3 and 6 is 6. So the process is kind of just to start with the largest one, try it, see if the other numbers will go into it. If they will, that's your answer. If they won't, then you just go through multiples of that number. So if 6 hadn't worked, we would try 12 next. And see if all the numbers go into that, and then 18, and then so on and so forth. So the LCM in this case is 6. And then step 2 is to multiply both sides by the LCM that you just found. So basically, and I'm just going to jot this problem down again just so I'll have some room to work with it. We want to multiply both sides of this equation by 6, the LCM that we found in step 1 up there. Okay, so to multiply it through by 6, we may want to look at it as a fraction, 6 over 1. And then to multiply two fractions together, you just multiply straight across. So you're going to distribute on the left side over here. You're going to multiply just like that. And to multiply straight across, we're going to multiply 6 times 1 and get 6, 1 times 6 and get 6. The y hangs out there. And then same thing to the negative 1/3. 6 times 1 is 6, and then 1 times 3 is 3. Then on the other side, 6 times 5 is 30, and 6 times 1 is 6. So what should happen here, if you found the right least common multiple, is all those fractions that you created should simplify into whole numbers. So 6 over 6 simplifies into 1. We'll just put y. 6 over 3 simplifies into 2. 30 over 6. 6 goes into 35 times. And then you've created an equation that's equivalent to the one that we started with, because that property says, the multiplication property of equality, that is, says that we can multiply both sides by the same number. We won't change the equality. So to finish this out, I'll just add 2 to both sides, and y equals 7. All right, next problem, same process. Find the least common multiple, multiply 3 by it, and then solve the resulting equation. All right, so here we've got denominators of 2, 4, and 5. Ignore that whole number over there. It has a denominator of 1. That doesn't matter. 1 goes into everything. So again, process. Go to the largest number. That's 5. 2 won't go into 5. So then we have to go to 10. 4 won't go into 10. We have to go to 15, and we may as well go on to 20 because we know it's not going to be an odd number. 20 works, right? 2 goes into 20, 4 goes into 20, and 5 goes into 20. So LCM's 20. I'm going to jot that down over here to the side. Probably don't want to do that in highlighter. The LCM is 20. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 20. And again, I can treat that as 20 over 1, but you'll quickly see that if you multiply the bottoms by 1, the bottoms are just going to stay the same, right? So 20 times 6 is 120. 20 times a half is going to be 20 over 2, and then the variable v. 20 times 2 is 40 over 1 times 5, v. And then 20 times 3 over 1 times 4 is 4, v. Alright, so then I want to simplify those fractions. Bring down the 120. That's going to be 10. That's going to be 8. And that's going to be 15. Alright, and then I've got some terms to combine, a bunch of v terms. 10 plus 8 is 18. Minus 15 is 3. So that's going to be 3v. And I'll divide both sides by 3. 3 goes into 12 4 times, and then bring down the 0, so 40. So v equals 40 in this case. Alright, so here's an interesting looking one. We've got some distributive property stuff going on up there. And of course we could go ahead and distribute that 1/4 out. And in this case, it would be a pretty simple process. Since 4 goes into 8 and 4, you'd end up with 8 over 4x plus 4 over 4, and those fractions would simplify. So if you want to do that, you're more than welcome. But I wanted to show you the fraction process and how that would work here with the parentheses and that fraction on the outside. So if I want to eliminate that fraction, I can just multiply both sides by 4. Since there's only one, the bottom of the fraction there, the denominator, is going to be the LCM. So I can just multiply both sides by 4. And multiplying the right side by 4 will give me negative 20. And multiplying the left side by 4 would just be multiplying 1/4 by 4. So that's going to give me 1. 4 over 4 is 1, right? And so 1 times that quantity is just going to be that quantity. Check that out. Alright, so then from there, it's a pretty simple equation to solve. Take away 4 from both sides. Divide by 8. And we get negative 3. So just to show you that this one in particular would have been pretty easy the other way too, I'm going to go ahead and solve it, if I write it down correctly that is. I'm going to go ahead and solve it the other way just to show you what I was talking about in case you didn't follow me. Okay, so I noticed quickly that distributing here would give me 8 over 4x, because remember, that's 8 over 1, multiply straight across, and then 4 over 4. And I know that all those fractions will simplify. 4 goes into 8 twice. 4 goes into 4 one time. But check this out. Take away 1. Divide by 2. And what do you know? We still get negative 3. So doing that the two ways does a couple things for you. It shows you that, hey, this whole multiplying by the LCM thing really works because we get the same answer. And it also shows you that you don't always have to do that if you see fractions. There may be a simpler way, because I would argue that while this side over here looks a little more complex, it was a little bit easier to accomplish. All right, here's another one. Again, fractions on the outsides of parentheses, we can eliminate those by just multiplying by the LCM. We don't have to worry about what's inside the parentheses. So LCM here of 2 and 4 is going to be 4. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 4, which really just means multiplying those fractions by 4. So that'll give me 4 over 2 Actually, here, let me do this. I'm just going to jot those down up here. 4 over 2, and then 4 over 4. And that way I don't save a little room. 4 over 2 I know is going to simplify to 2. 4 over 4 is going to simplify to 1, so that's just going to leave what was in the quantity. 1 times that gives you that. Distributive property over here. And as we talked about in the last section, in this step we want to get, or these next steps, we want to get all the variable terms to one side of the equation, all the constant terms to the other side. So variable terms first, constant terms next, and in this case I'm finished. Sometimes I'd have a coefficient in front of the constant, or in front of the variable that I'd have to divide by, but not here. So I'm all good. Okay, here's the next one. We've got a 5x minus 3 divided by 4 there on the left side, and then x over 2 on the right side. Guys, same process here. I can just multiply both sides by the LCM, which in this case is going to be 4, just like last time. Multiply this side by 4. Multiply this side by 4. So the left side, I'm just going to write it like this. I'm not going to distribute quite yet. And the reason why I'm not going to distribute is because if that 4 is on the outside of the parentheses, I can just go ahead and divide it by the 4 on the bottom. Okay? Or cancel it out. That'll make them 1s, and that'll make that just 5x minus 3. And then on the other side, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So that's going to give me 2x over here. So give me 5x minus 3 there. And then from there again, variables to one side, constants to the other. Oh, I forgot my minus 3. Put that in. There we go. And then constants to the other side. Divide by 3, and x equals 1. Out of room a little bit there, but you get the idea. Alright, for our next problem, I've got a couple fractions. I probably want to go ahead and eliminate those, 4 and 6. LCM, 4 won't go into 6, so I got to try 12. 4 goes into 12, so I'm good there. LCM is 12. Multiply both sides by 12. I'm going to speed up a little bit here because I think by this point you've probably got this process under control. So again, just distribute everything, since everything's in parentheses there. Distribute 12 to everything. Simplify fractions. All the variables to one side. I'm going to go this way this time. Keep the variable positive. Then all the constants to the other side. And I get negative 12. That equals negative 12. Alright, last one. Last one here. I've got a couple of fractions I want to eliminate. 2 and 4 is my denominators. LCM is going to be 4. Multiply both sides by 4. Again, I'm not going to multiply that binomial by 4. I'm just going to leave that 4 on the outside. 6 times 4. Same thing on this side. I know it's going to cancel out, so I'm not going to bother distributing. Alright, so this makes 2. This cancels out. Simplify on the left side there, multiply 2. Combine like terms. Variables to one side, constants to the other. If I'm going too fast for you guys, just pause the video. Take a breath if you need to. Take away 30. And I'm going to bring that over here. That's going to give me 5q equals negative 25. Okay? And then from there, just divide by 5. Q is equal to negative 5. Alright, that's going to wrap this one up, guys. Just work on those try-it problems. If you haven't already, you should have been doing that as you went through the video. But if you didn't, go ahead and work on those try-it problems. And I will see you guys in class. Have a great day.